What's up guys, Chase here. So we finally got the GT4 RS and it was not without its issues. We had shipping delays, the rear windscreen was cracked on delivery, we had a paint scratch on accident. Luckily, Redwood City Porsche pulled off a miracle for us and got us everything repaired and out the door in just a few days. So shout out to Tony over there for hooking us up. That gave us just enough time to get the car over to Lou at Precision Auto Works, who pulled off another miracle. He literally finished the car completely PPF'd in 2 days. We picked it up at 1 a.m. this morning, just in time to film this review. So hope you enjoy. Here we go.
So the driving position in this car in any Cayman is a lot lower to the ground than you'd expect. You kind of can sit into the car like it's this little roadster and you can see all the points that you want to see, but at the same time feel like you're going a little bit faster, which I really like. But then like with these bucket seats, they have height adjustments and it pitches up from the butt so that you can come a little bit more forward, be closer to the steering wheel and be able to see over the hood a little bit more, which is what you really want. Like if you're on the track or something, you can see the right hump, the left hump, and where your curves and corners and apexes are, which is awesome.
And like Griffin said, you're really chest forward. You're just more upright than you would be otherwise. And at first it can be a little bit awkward. You feel like, oh, I'm way too close to the steering wheel. I'm way too upright. But for anyone who does any serious driving, that's the ideal position. And I think the Cayman and the bucket seats and the adjustability, the height adjustment that you get in it really nails it.
Yeah, and like from a mechanics standpoint, I don't think people realize like if you're gonna have oh shit moments when you're driving fast, especially on the track, hopefully only on the track, where you have to counter steer and fix what's happening. And if you're trying to move your arms out like this,
you can't do it like that.
You're using all your shoulder joint. You need fast hands, literally, to save.
Our initial impression after 400 miles is that the steering wheel feel on the GT4 RS is a little bit dead. And I hate to say that because it's my car and I bought this wanting the ultimate driving experience that you could get out of a Porsche and a GT car. But it just seems like the ratio, the initial steering ratio is a little bit heavier and dampened than the GT3s of the world. And it's not to say that the steering capability of the GT4 RS is in any way hindered.
The way that I would describe the steering is that, like you said, it is kind of dampened and there's like this kind of dead zone. But at the same time, because of its smoothness, it feels easy and light.
Right.
You can take it out on these back roads and the steering is not going crazy because of all the bumps. And the suspension is refined enough that the car's not annoying or overly loud from just the road.
Yeah, you feel like you have the ultimate control of the car with this steering setup.
Yes.
Even if for little lack of feel and feedback.
It does kind of allow you or relinquish your focus to be able to notice so much more about what's going on with the sound and the feel and everything, because you're not trying to control a really darty steering wheel or feel, which says a lot about what the Cayman is built for anyways. I mean, that's what it's for.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more entry level in every single way.
Yeah, it's for amateurs. Who would buy this?
So I want to talk about the throttle of this car, like the pedal itself. What's different about this car than any other naturally aspirated car and Porsche throttle is that because of all the noise in the back, which we'll talk about a little more later, like the intake, the induction noise, I can't separate that from the throttle.
Right.
So as I'm putting it, it's got this long throw of the pedal, a lot of controllability. The pedal has a nice heavy feel to it.
Yeah.
But you cannot separate the fact that at a certain point in the throttle, you hear the induction noise or the basically the intake open up and you get that sound linked to that point in the pedal, kind of like boost in a boosted or turbocharged engine. So it's one of the coolest things to me about this car. Obviously the sound is amazing, but you cannot separate that from the pedal, and it gives you the sensation of kind of more dynamics to the throttle than just a linear feel, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and the noise that you're hearing and the speed that you're feeling and the vibrations of the throttle pedal on your foot, they're all synced perfectly.
Yeah.
So you have this trifecta of sensation and control over the throttle that is unlike most any other car in the world.
Yeah.
And it is phenomenal. It's really enjoyable, and it gives you full control on the track to do exactly what you need with really small inputs and get a very consistent result out of it.
About to kick in right now. Oh my God, that's crazy. Now we got to address the brake feel, which I personally love. This is one of my favorite cars in the brake setup. This has the carbon ceramic brakes, the PCCBs, which are very large. They're from the same size as the Turbo, actually, the Turbo S.
And the GT3.
And the GT3, which they both took from the Turbo S.
410 millimeters in the front.
Yeah, and they shaved them down so they're a little bit thinner and even lighter. And that's one of the main points of having carbon ceramics, is that they're lightweight.
Right.
So you save unsprung mass on the wheels, which contributes to, you know, power delivery and dynamics of the wheel and steering and everything. But they also dissipate heat a lot better. That's kind of the pro of the carbon ceramic. Even though they're more expensive, they handle a lot more heat. They're just going to be kind of, you know, track proof.
Right.
And when you're on the track, you really want something, you know, you want brakes that take care of you. So in this car, and what we've noticed just driving down these roads, is that the pedal has the right amount of feel to it. You engage the brakes very quickly, but it's not a hard stopping point. They're not super grabby, so you have a lot of play and adjustability in a good way.
The real reason I bought this car and I set up this Thunderhill track day was so that I could finally prove to Griffin that I'm a better driver than him in not 3 but 4 cars. So we are excited to get that done with so we can move on with our friendship. But we decided there's one more thing we need.
Yeah, I can't just like drive the same car.
It can't be just Cayman,
GT4 versus GT4 RS like we originally planned. We need to find a GT3, so we're gonna try to find a GT3 992.
Yep.
Do a street review, hopefully in time for the track. Do it on track, battle each other, and squash this beef.
All right, so we just picked up Griffin from Oakland. Just got the car back from Alex's shop, where we put in a harness bar, BBI harness bar, 6-point harnesses that are here.
A little too uncomfy for the road right
Shark
now.
Bluish. We did all the aero adjustments to the most aggressive track setting. We did a track alignment, so we increased the camber on both axles. We're at 2.8 in the front, like 2.4, 2.5 in the rear.
Solid.
What else? Yeah, we did all the things, so we got the car ready for the track, and the thing is we're at 902 miles, so we are gonna call that broken in, and we're gonna go redline this puppy and get some sound. Here we go. I'm ready.
Are you ready?
Send it. Send it. Oh, God.
Better than I thought.
That is a ridiculous sound.
Oh my God.
Launch control.
Launch control.
Activate.
We should probably talk about last night.
That was awesome. The hype of it being one of the best sounding engines or cars ever made, and that being a top selling point, is very real. That's not over exaggerated in my opinion. It's phenomenal.
It's it's better than you think. Like,
Yeah.
we were waiting for a while to break it in and hear everything, and as you could see from our video, like, we were just mind blown.
Yeah, genuinely shocked at how good it is from 8 to 9. The mechanical, tinny, just machine gun-esque sound that comes from the engine during that 1,000 RPM is so distracting and awesome.
Yeah.
It's epic.
It's
every
really hard
single
to focus
time.
when that starts happening. Your brain just starts like buzzing, and
Yeah.
you're like, ah.
It's legitimately the best sounding flat six on earth, in my opinion, and
Yeah.
one of the best sounding cars, period.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Let's give merit to all the other flat sixes that in history that have sounded really good. They do have different songs that they sing. This one
Yeah.
just has every detail exemplified in the
Amplified.
engine and amplified.
Yeah.
It's just so unique. And let's give it a negative point. Unfortunately, the best moment is at the end of fourth gear, and we should probably not mention how fast you're going after that.
Yeah, just
So
a
on the
tiny
street,
bit.
kind of eggs you on to do some stupid things.
Yeah. So engine performance,
Engine performance.
nearly 500 horsepower, GT3 engine, 992, epically fast,
Epically fast.
not missing anything. I mean, it's a 3,100 pound car. This thing is lightning fast. To me, I think because of the symphony and everything else with the experience, it feels faster than a GT3, even though it's not technically, but it just goes like hell.
Yeah, it's more intense because of the sound.
It is.
But it's also, at no point is it overwhelming, except for the fact that to draw out all the gears, which we'll talk about with the transmission later, you are going very fast.
Yeah.
So speed is an element, but the acceleration isn't overwhelming. The
Right.
sound almost is, but that's not going to betray you on the track, especially because you have so many RPMs to work with. Such a large, not a large power band. All the power in the torque is
Right.
geared up at the top end of
Yep.
the gear.
It is.
So you, as long as you're dancing up there, you have all of the power that you want. You're getting a lot of noise, but you're not going to get betrayed by some sort of like low end coming out of a corner, accidentally step on a little too much throttle, and it kind of betrays you.
How much more betrayal can I take?
But at the same time, Porsche traction control won't really let that happen because it's
Right.
amazing and just perfectly fine-tuned, which we also were kind of blown away by with the launch of
Yeah.
how those tiny little adjustments that it was making that we saw on the tack and could hear in the engine
Yeah,
as
it's pretty
the tires are
special.
spinning, like without killing your launch, just kind of giving you this kind of sensation of having a shortened limiter like earlier in the gear. It's really cool.
I think the combination of a naturally aspirated 500 horsepower-ish engine paired with a very lightweight car is, and there's nothing unnecessary about it. There's no massive overhead of power that you're just having to manage as a driver. You can really put it all down to the floor, and Porsche does that better than anyone. And it's the reason that the GT3s for 3+ generations now have all been around 500 horsepower.
Yeah.
They've all been around 3,000 pounds, right? It's
Yeah.
just a perfect combination and the sweet spot between all of those things.
I'm
Yeah.
curious how you feel about the gearing in this car and the gearbox in
Well,
general.
I know they are shorter ratios
Yeah, a little bit.
than it's a 7-speed gearbox. There's shorter ratios than the GT4 PDK.
Okay.
And I think on the track they're going to be perfect. I think on the street you could always make the argument if they were a little bit shorter, it might be a little more fun to ring them out.
Yeah.
And you're just going so freaking fast by the time you're at the top of third.
Yeah.
It's not. There's nothing wrong with it. It'd just be like a minor nuance, like being very picky there.
Yeah.
But it's PDK. It's awesome. It's crazy when you're whether you're doing it or the PDK Sport Mode is doing it, and you're upshifting, you don't feel any lapse in power. There's no like jolt or anything in the PDK shifts, and that's perfect for performance driving.
Mm-hmm.
it makes me think I miss some of the old days with just a little bit of a more theater with shifting.
Right.
But very quickly I forget that I miss that. I don't at all, because the performance of this is absolutely mind-blowing for the category and price point that Porsches are in. I know they're high, but they're not a $2 million hypercar.
Right. They're not a $300,000-$400,000. Well,
Ferrari. It's not a Ferrari.
Markups. But
Right.
like, yeah, they're not $400,000 or $500,000 with a dual clutch that
Right.
punches you in the butthole every time you want to shift, and you're like, that's kind of unpleasant.
Yeah.
But fun in some ways if you like butt stuff.
And then obviously the enthusiasts, including us, will always say, oh, I would love a manual gearbox in this.
Right.
Of course, that would be sick. It's not what RS stands for though in Porsche, and we have to get used to it. But I'm gonna say it, and I still believe it. The little sequential option that you get with the gear shifter here, it is very pleasing.
Yeah.
It is still a distant second, but it is the second place to a manual gearbox.
Somewhere
And you
between
can see-
sequential and Tiptronic, but
If
still.
I'm not driving for performance, I find myself using this sequential shifter, mock sequential shifter, all the time. It adds a level of engagement and fun that kind of puts a boyish smile on my face in like a little bit of an immature way.
because you like playing with the knob.
Yeah, I like playing with the knobs.
Okay.
And the other thing is that on sound and gearbox, the best thing by far are the downshifts. Whoa! And the limiter. You gotta remember that if you're in that mode, even if you're in PDK Sport, it's not gonna shift for you at the top end, so you'll run into the limiter.
Oh yeah.
And I did this on purpose as an example to the fellow RS owners, okay?
Yeah.
That definitely was not by mistake. But the downshifts, I mean, you do not have to go fast to experience the glory that is the downshifts on this car. It's just so immediate, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Let's talk about handling for a minute. Obviously, the RS is, and ride quality, the RS is very stiff, even in the softest setting. With the aggressive damper setting, it is a very stiff car. You know, that's just something you have to live with. That's what you get when you buy an RS. And we're going to talk about this a lot more when we get to the track at Thunderhill and really dive into it. But we'll give you the quick first impression on the street. Obviously, it handles incredibly well. There's an excellent amount of grip all over the place around the corners, even though they haven't upsized the tire size from the GT4 to the RS, which is an interesting note. It's still there. The one thing I'll say with the stiffness of the suspension here is if you go over some street bumps on back roads or B roads, it can get a little bit bouncy at speed. You'll start to hear it because the traction control will cut in. You feel like your rear wheels are lifting off the ground a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be a little bit unnerving. It's not something we experience quite as much in, say, a GT3.
Right.
But with the speed that this is capable of and the rigidity of the chassis and the suspension setup, this can be kind of a bouncy, floaty car, which I think will be a huge advantage on the track and maybe is a slight comfort disadvantage on the street.
And it's a GT4. It still continues to not have the technology and the investment financially that the
Right.
GT3 has. So it's very analog. Not analog, but you know, that you
It
press
is.
a button for everything. Yeah, it's not, you don't have digital adjustments for your driving modes or anything like that, and there's not as much technology going into the chassis.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed the review. We've got a lot more to come on the GT4 RS, and we're hoping to find a GT3. We've got a couple leads already. And
GT3,
subscribe
GT3.
if you can. Give us a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time on Car Honey.